All right, my brother King Kofi.
What's
I'm not
going
used.
on?
I'm not used to seeing you without the hat. That's your signature style.
I know everybody always say that. I'm like, occasionally I let the head breathe.
Yeah, you gotta let the hair
Yeah,
breathe occasionally.
exactly.
Do you do your farmers market today? Is that today or
No, typically we would, but I'm not going back to April.
oh to April? Okay.
Yeah, so I'm gonna jump start it in April. I think right now I'm pretty confident that the COVID is gonna be in the back of us. So I think April is a
Yeah,
good time to start.
yeah. We got the vaccines rolling out.
Mm.
I'm not saying things will be back to normal, but the new
No, no, no.
normal.
The new normal. I think it's going to take a little bit while, but I'm pretty confident that by April, things will
Yeah,
start.
absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah.
So thanks for joining me on the podcast.
Anytime.
I don't know if I gave you the backstory to this podcast, but I'll give you a little bit of backstory. I created this podcast in the midst of COVID. Before COVID hit, I did a lot of public speaking to kids and youth around workforce development because I used to create workforce development programs to get kids exposed to different types of middle wage jobs.
Right.
And there was a diversity, equity, and inclusion piece in there, but I didn't realize that's what it was until much later. Uh, Google reached out to me after, you know, my last leg of my workforce development career, and
Hmm.
got me into the startup world where I got to meet a lot of different entrepreneurs of color, and I was amazed by their stories, and I went back and started to tell these stories to the youth or just somebody that was like that. I got to speak to adults too who were like in that pivot, wanting to pivot in their career, and I realized that in our Black culture, we have a lot of limiting beliefs on what we can do, what we can be,
Right.
because of whether it be mainstream media, society, whatever it may be, that we can only be this one thing, or maybe these things were in the deck for us because there's only one Black person allowed to be in that successful position, and this,
Right.
if you're not part of the chosen few, right? And
Right.
so I loved everything you spoke of on the radio show when talking about. By the way, I've been using your term "Renaissance man," right?
I mean, it's not my term, but it's a Renaissance man.
Yeah,
I think I like that. I like that term because I
yeah,
think yeah,
yeah. Because you're an
but
engineer, you in the food space, and you
yeah,
didn't let society, your upbringing, whatever, define that you can only do this one thing, and that's an inspiration
yeah, that's
in itself. And I think these type of stories need to be told. So, um, and not only that was the front motive, but as I got into this, I realized that I could build a community of people, of like-minded individuals, and that there's a possibility that I can get a group of Black investors from Africa and the U.S., Blacks and Africans all around the diaspora, to invest in us and things that really move our community. So that's the long term play, but the short term play is getting our stories out there, telling our stories and our version of history.
right. Oh, that's awesome. Well,
Man,
I commend you on that. That's beautiful. That's everybody. That's you doing your part
yeah.
to move life and human beings forward. So that's blessing to you. Much
Thank you.
grateful for that.
Appreciate you. So today's episode, unlike the radio show, we're gonna take a journey with you down your life path of your career and
Sure.
see how you where you got today and the decisions you made and any advice and tips you give to people out there. So with that being said, and I know the recording's already started, my engineer, they'll figure out how to make this look beautiful. So if you mess up, don't worry, or take a pause. It's okay.
No
We'll take a
worries.
pause, sip this beautiful cup of coffee,
Hey,
and then
that amen to that.
amen to that. So with that being said, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another episode of Risepreneurs. I got a special guest in the building today, Mr. King Kofi. I like to call him King Kofi because it just has a nice ring to it. But Kofi, thank you for being here today. How are you this morning, sir?
I can't complain. Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
Yeah, now I'm looking at your background. So for those of you on the audio experience, I don't know if I'll get a chance to do the video experience at some point on YouTube, but there's this beautiful mural behind them, and I've been meaning to ask them about it because they got this a bunch of hands and life is. Tell me about this mural that's behind you.
So I wrote this play a while back called Courageous Pessimism,
Okay.
and in there is basically is a symbolic play about how all of us have the same issues, but we don't talk, we don't connect with each other. And
Mm,
in the play, one of the characters says, um, connecting with people helps us find the common threads in our life and
mm,
illuminate the dark path of our journey on this earth. And I've always believed that. I always believed that connecting with people is really important. So in my home, everybody who visit here, this wall I started by making my prints, and everybody
mm,
who visit here, regardless, makes their prints on the wall.
mm,
And it's just the idea of we're all connected. So you make your prints and you write your name and where you're from and any message you want, whatever life means to you. And so I
mm.
started this like years ago, and now it's taking over this whole wall around the corner and everything.
Yeah.
So it's just my way of showing that we all connected. And it's actually funny. One time, a friend of a friend whom I didn't know came here and was looking at it and found somebody she knows that they grew up with in the same town.
That's
You know,
crazy.
yeah. But that's what that's what's behind it. And it's also, I say someday if I ever when I get a brick and mortar, I want to do something like that in a restaurant where after you finish eating, you leaving, you can put your hands on the wall anytime, anything you want. So
You know what? I love this idea so much.
yeah.
I'm gonna have to take this back to my company, and I hope you don't mind. I might have
No, no,
to.
no, no. Please, this is actually a friend. I went to a friend's apartment a long time ago,
Uh huh.
and she was a her and her boyfriend were artists. Her boyfriend was an artist, and they were actually doing that. And I looked at it and said, "This is beautiful."
Mm-hmm.
So please, so the credit really should be to them, not me. And I thought
Okay.
this was brilliant.
I think
So
it's brilliant too.
yeah,
As
spread
we
it
go
out.
on this path. So yes, I'm going to definitely.
Mhm.
Whoever gave you this idea, thank you so much. I'm gonna borrow this
Yeah,
idea and share it with the world. And hope we can find the ways we're all interconnected and spread the love and the journey and find a path forward together. So thank you
right.
for sharing that.
Oh,
So
thanks.
for those of the people who have not had the pleasure of meeting you on the radio show that I do and don't know of you, I propose this question: Who is Kofi? And you could take that wherever you want to go. You could go deep. You could go broad. Who is Kofi?
um, that's a good question. Kofi is really a simple man. He's a man who loves people, a man who is grateful,
Mm-hmm.
who has a just incredible story, which is not that ordinary from where I grew up. But
Mm,
Kofi's the engineer, the food guy, the music guy, the
mm,
the everyday common person um, who refused to give up,
I love that.
and also always constantly trying to connect with people and move forward. It's
Yeah,
really that's always been the story. There's nothing special about me. There's nothing. Um, eh, you know, if anything, I can sum it up. Really, Kofi is the product of the kindness of strangers.
nice. I
You know,
love that. The
it
product of the
is
kindness of strangers. And I
right.
have to disagree. Kufi is special, y'all. Like his ability to connect on all levels and everything that he does with the art that's behind him on the back of the wall, to the food that he creates, to the people he meets, to the conversation that he has. He's a true connector.
I appreciate that.
So the journey. Let's talk about the journey because where are you from and how did you get here?
Um, so I don't know much about my family as much, but I was born in Ghana in
Mm-hmm.
a small little town called, it's actually called Ashanti Town, but we call it Ashtown.
Mm-hmm.
Now I don't know much my younger days, but the story goes that when I was born, my I didn't know my parents
Mm-hmm.
until when I was 17 when I came here. And the story goes that my when I was a year old or something like that, my father got an opportunity to come to America. And my father is a very hard worker. He's a man that very intelligent, very he doesn't give up. He's a very kind soul too.
Yeah.
He had an opportunity at that time. A lot of people were going to London and all these places, but he saw America and pushed his way through here. So he actually came here without papers.
Mhm.
And I guess when I was three, my mother joined him.
Mhm.
So I was sent to live with my grandma. And again, these are all stories I don't remember much. I do remember faintly living with my grandmother
Mhm.
in a small village called Mampong.
Mhm.
I remember that feeling. But the story goes that one morning they came in and my grandmother was passed away.
Mhm.
And so from then on, I was tossed around to different places, living with people from here to here, there to there. Um, didn't know anybody in my family. A lot of people people that took care of me were friends of my mom's
Mhm.
and things like that. Until finally, I ended up with my uncle,
Mhm.
with his children, and my uncle decided that he's gonna bring his whole kids to London,
Mhm.
and couldn't bring me with him. So again, they took me and I went to go live with my uncle's wife, family, which I became like the Cinderella. I was basically a Cinderella, I cleaned the house. Basically, I was the the person that you use. Until my parents here were at the same time. My parents here were working hard trying to bring me over, but it isn't easy because they don't have papers.
Yeah. Yeah. That is
But they
easy.
were also, yeah, they were also trying, and eventually they heard that I've been living such a terrible life. I was sick.
Mhm.
I had jaundice. My hair was falling apart, all kinds of stuff. And
Oh no.
yeah, and my parents contacted my dad's brother. My dad's brother came and took me, and they brought me to um, a friend of my mother who actually took care of my mother. They were friends, good friends,
Mhm.
who took care of my mother. And so that began my journey of growing up with this lady. So I always thought that lady was my mother.
Mhm.
Um, and so that's really how it began. And then at some point I was told my parents in America, and I said, I have no idea what you guys talking about. I don't know what this is. I didn't believe, I didn't know who they are.
Mhm.
All I know is that I always want football because I play soccer and I love it.
Yeah.
And I'll write a letter and somebody will bring me soccer and and cleats. And I'm like, great. But I never really believed it. I didn't know what America was. Didn't care for it.
Mhm.
But constantly I was told, and I say whatever. They'll send me pictures, and I'm like, I don't know who these people are.
Yeah.
But at a younger age, Africa being what it is, I got into selling um, rubber bags
Yeah.
for groceries. I got into, and so my day would be when I go to school, came out, I would sell ice water in the city.
Oh, look at you. You was a young entrepreneur.
Oh yeah. I was because you had to do that to pay your school fees and your books
Uh-huh.
and stuff like that. So that's what I would do. So my day would be after school, I'll go sell ice water,
Mhm.
and then when the sun comes down, I'll sell ice water. When the ice water finish, I would sell like political polythene bags for people to put their grocery in.
Yeah.
And then when the sun goes down, nighttime, I'll sell kerosene.
Okay.
So that was my day basically, and all that just to make money to go to school and pay things and stuff like that. So early on,
Okay.
um, I kind of learned, like I said last time on that podcast, the
Mhm.
Africans are the one of the most cultivating and one of the most entrepreneurial because the average African sells things in the market to make money.
Yeah. I agree.
So at an early age, I was introduced to this, and it always stuck with me. And at the same time, too, drumming was my thing. Like literally, I would gather pots and pans,
Uh-huh.
just beat them, and people would dance. It was just part of me.
Yeah, that explains the
Um,
music thing.
it really is. Like I don't remember. People often ask me, "How did you learn to play music?" I say, honestly, I've always known how to play drums. I don't even know how I learned it. It just came with the deal.
Yeah.
So at 17, finally my parents were able to get me papers. And I remember when they told me I'm leaving, I'm like, okay. I still didn't believe them until when I was in the plane going, oh my God, I am leaving, you know.
He's like, who are these people? These are your
Yeah,
parents. Really?
yeah. It was like incredible. And so I came here. My parents live in Nashua, New Hampshire, which they still live now. Um, I landed in Boston. And for the first time I met my parents, it was actually kind of weird because Um, I came in with my cousin who is was old enough to recognize my parents. I didn't, so I was counting on him to connect us.
Mhm.
Well, when we got out, he was in a baggage area. Now that I know it's a baggage area, looking for bags, and I was just so intrigued about what's outside that I just I just went and stood in the street looking at the tall buildings, the
Mhm.
people, all these. I'm like, oh my God, this is amazing. And constantly, I saw this family standing there, family, and I keep looking at them. Like, oh, okay, all right, this is cool, but I didn't even know who they were, and they keep looking at me. Okay, and then and then finally, my cousin came up and basically said, "Hey, that's your parents."
You're like, oh,
Yeah,
that
it was.
that explains why those people are looking at me.
Yeah, I mean, I think my mom definitely, my parents definitely recognized me, but it was the kind of thing where,
They try
we're
to see,
sure.
do they he recognize us? Like
Yeah, I
I
think it was
recognize
that
them.
kind of stuff because I didn't know who they were. And finally they came to me, and at that time my I had my mom and dad has had also my brother and my sister, so they were young and
Uh-huh.
Americans, and I remember my sister coming to me and just basically hugging me on one leg. Now here's a he must she must have been about maybe 5. She was
Yeah.
very young, and this is a sister I've never met. Don't even know. All I know is, occasionally I will get like drawings.
Uh-huh.
She comes to hug me, and I'm like, oh, okay, all right. And then my brother also hugs me, and all right, and they're dragging me everywhere. Um, Now, what was really interesting was there was a gentleman in a limo. He's a limo driver. I think he was waiting for someone. Just watching all this, and uh, and I'm looking at the limo because I've never seen one before.
Uh-huh.
The only time I've seen it in my country, the only time I saw a limo, we used to call it 6 doors,
Yeah.
and it was the king owned one. That's the only time I ever seen it. So to see one standing right in front of me, I was like, oh my God. So I kept staring at it. And the gentleman opened the door and basically said something in English, and I didn't understand the English very well. Of course, my brother and sister understood and go, come on. And we got in and took a picture. They let us take a picture
You
in
got
the
it.
limo.
You got picked up in the limo?
No, 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 no. I didn't get picked up. He was waiting for someone, but
Oh,
he
gotcha.
was he was nice enough to let us take a picture in the
Oh,
limo.
gotcha.
Oh no, no, no.
I was like,
Yeah.
that's a classic pickup right there. Like,
No,
man.
no, but I mean, some of the things that when you come to this country, some of the things that you witness and you see, it's funny. I mean, to be honest, like even the thing that I wore to this country was even funny.
Yeah.
So coming out here, I had no idea what to expect. Um, and my cousin, I have multiple cousins. The ones that I knew, they they used to go to Germany
Uh-huh.
and back all the time. And
Uh-huh.
I remember one of them brought a leather suit,
A
right?
leather suit. Wow.
Yeah, to one of my cousins, and it didn't fit. So when I was coming here, we're like, well, what is this kid gonna wear? And I'm like, I want to wear this. so, so, so just picture this. Have you seen Eddie Murphy Raw?
Yeah, that's what I
You
was
seen that?
picturing.
Yeah.
I was like, he dressing like he about to do a comedy show.
Oh, that was me right there. All leather black came in, and I landed. I'm not kidding you. This is like when I think of this day, I laugh my butt off. I still have that leather pants in my parents' house. I keep it for just for the and it wasn't even bought for me. It was for my cousins. So it was even bigger. It was
Uh-huh.
big, and I had the hat, everything.
Oh my
Um,
goodness.
and I remember, and we landed here. I do remember it was July. I think it was the 4th of July actually,
Uh-huh.
and it was hot as hell.
Uh,
And I remember people would walk by and look at me.
They're like, look at this guy with his level.
I didn't get the joke. I thought I was cool. Apparently, apparently, you're probably laughing your ass off, you know. But yeah, and then the rest was history. My
Yeah.
parents did a good job, you know, enforcing that education is a key. But when I came into, I've always been blessed. Even
Hmm.
in Ghana, I was very studious,
Hmm.
and certain things came easy for me.
Yeah.
And when I came here, I saw an opportunity, and I said, "Oh, this is going to be good."
Hmm.
And my parents did a good job in terms of enrolling me into school. So it was difficult. I did not start to be very comfortable with the culture until maybe my junior year in college.
Mm.
Um, and also, I was the oldest. When I came here, my parents, but my age, I should have been basically in 11th grade.
Hmm.
But my parents said, no, there's no way if we put in 11th grade, there's no way this kid is going to see college because it would just be crazy.
Hmm.
And the way I look, I mean, a lot of Africans don't look the age.
Hmm.
I always joke that we're malnutrition. Oh, in our DNA, our DNA is completely different. So my parents discussed this with the guardians, and they said it's probably let's start in my 8th grade.
Uh-huh.
So I was basically a 17-year-old in 8th grade,
Mm.
but you couldn't tell. Even if I'm next to my colleagues,
Hmm.
you could never tell
Hmm.
because we were the. In fact, you would think the people in my class are older than I am because it was
Yeah.
very tiny.
There.
And I thought that was now when I think of, I think that was one of the brilliant things that my parents did because it gave me the chance to learn and build the foundation.
Hmm.
Um, and so when I time came when I entered college, I was fortunate enough to get some scholarships and things like that to Boston University.
Hmm.
So I went there, and initially I actually wanted to be a filmmaker and writing.
Really? What
Yeah,
made you go down the engineering route?
there was a couple of things. One was I remember, having the conversation with my guidance counselor, and I couldn't explain well, so I want to tell stories, you know, and and she advised me, said, no, listen, it's now I understand what she was trying to say was that's going to be difficult because you don't even speak English, you
Mhm.
know. And I also remember not, my father was always saying, no, 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 you have to get a skill,
Mhm.
So my parents always like, you got to get a skill.
That's the African way.
Right.
You, my friend, you have got to get a skill.
A skill, right.
What are you going to do with this art nonsense or this drawing? There is no money there to be had.
Exactly.
Please, I beg of you, get a skill, a real skill.
Exactly. That's exactly how the conversation went. And and the interesting thing is I was always also tinkering with things.
Hmm.
I was building things or taking things apart, seeing what's inside it. And math and science always came easy. Like math was a thing that I love math. Like I love applying math to things. So all that was there.
Hmm.
And but what made me go engineering route was airplanes.
Hmm.
And then I remember my first time coming here in an airplane. I was sitting at the window
Hmm.
and I kept looking at the wing, and the wing was changing and doing all these crazy, amazing things. Literally, I was fixated on that thing for the whole trip.
Hmm.
And right away, I said, you know what? I think those are cool.
Hmm.
I want to be an engineer. I want to be an aerospace engineer. I want to design these things.
Hmm.
Initially, I actually want to be a pilot. Um, But then I realized I don't like heights too much.
That's kind of tough to be a pilot if you don't like
It
heights.
is. But but the funny thing is that when I became engineering, at some point in my career, I had to do flight testing,
Uh-huh.
which means I have to go in the airplane and do things while they're flying around. And so I got comfortable with it eventually.
Ah,
But that's how the engineering came about. Is I love airplanes so much, I just said, you know what, this is what I'm going to do. So I went through Boston University as a mechanical engineer,
uh-huh.
and then after that, I decided that a lot of my friends went and get a job. I said, nah, I want to even further more. So I got accepted in Columbia University,
Yeah.
and I went through Columbia University, got aerospace engineering. Um, and then after I graduated, I was recruited by a company by name of Pratt Whitney,
Probably
which,
Whitney.
yeah, lately they're in the news because the plane that was almost went down. The engine was made by them.
Oh no.
Yeah, unfortunate. Um, and so and actually, what happened was the woman who actually recruited me, Zara Larson,
Uh-huh.
whom I am forever grateful.
Thank you, Zara Larson. Cause
Yeah, I'm forever grateful because at some point I was trying to get a PhD in engineering
uh
at Columbia, but man, I was burnt out because I came to this country. Since I came to the country, I'd be studying. If I tell you
yeah.
how much I had to do to catch up, it's crazy. So I was burnt out and poor and just tired of this, tired of school.
I
so,
can imagine.
so one day I learned that this company was coming on campus to recruit, and I pulled my stuff together and I met this lady. And at that time too, I was into writing and doing all these things. And the more I talked to the lady, I noticed she was very fascinated that as an engineer, I also kind of go the other route, the
Mm-hmm.
arts route. And stuff. She just seemed so
Mm-hmm.
intrigued about it. And so right away, she recommended that they bring me on site for interview.
Mm-hmm.
And the interview went well, and they recruited me. And so that was my first job. I spent 5 years there, and I said, okay, now I have got the skills, Daddy.
Really,
I
that
have,
that that so this is a question I normally ask people because I say, people have their normally most people's first job and modest beginnings are like McDonald's and so forth, but your first
well,
W2
no,
job was this?
well, no, 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 no. Actually, this is part of when I was in high school. Throughout, I worked at Burger King.
Okay.
Oh, yeah, 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 yeah. My first job.
Okay.
This Pratt Whitney is my first professional job, but my first job was Wendy's.
Okay. So
Oh yeah.
what did you learn at Wendy's that you think probably helped you get your first real professional job?
I don't know, but I'd say the Wendy's was interesting, right? Wendy's, it was. I didn't know the culture. I didn't speak the English.
uh,
Seriously. So I don't even know what happened. All I know is that my job was to sweep the floors and you be on grill. That's it.
okay.
I don't. I used to be frightened when they say you're gonna be on register because no, 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 no. So they kept me in the back.
Uh-huh.
So I don't know if I developed anything
Or,
that
or
really
or was there
propelled
something
me.
that you would say that you learned from your first job that helped you maybe later on in life?
It's hard to put my hands on. I'd say if anything, it would be maybe don't be late.
Always be on
And no,
time.
yeah, be on time and no matter what, just do your job with smiling. At least to a degree. But the Wendy's and the McDonald's stuff was for me it was a means to buy my books and be able
Uh-huh.
to do things and stuff like that. And then after Wendy's, I went to make Burger King, and
Uh-huh.
actually most of my job was in Burger King. I was in Burger King until I went to college, and even after college, my freshman year, I'll come back
Yeah.
to the point where even and I have to give kudos to Burger King. Burger King has a scholarship. I actually got a scholarship, like it was a $500 scholarship for books.
Yeah.
Every summer from them. So when so my, I think it was my sophomore year is
Uh-huh.
where I said, okay, I've had enough of you guys, because what happened was there's a program, and kudos to this program. I believe it's still around.
Uh-huh.
It's called the
Mm.
Inroads, and it was a new program where they were trying to again do what is doing now, and
Mm.
they try to place minorities with potentials into corporate, you know.
I love that.
Yeah, it's a beautiful program. It's called Inroads, and it's still around. It
Right.
originated from Boston area. And so I applied and I got it. So in the
Mm-hmm.
summer, I had opportunity to work at real engineering firms,
Mm-hmm.
and learn things, and had great mentors and things like that. So
Right.
from sophomore year to senior year, I was every summer I would get at different places to work, and
Right.
I think that really is what helped a lot in terms of getting my first job, because I started to
Yeah.
learn, okay, all right, this is how it works, and this is how it doesn't work.
Yeah, because that's your first professional job. That was a really good
Th-
job, and
yeah, oh yeah, oh yeah,
I like to think that even though you had assistance with that amazing woman that you mentioned, that there was the prep work to get you there. You probably had a few. Well, as we now see, there's a few things that kind of from inroads to Burger King. Those experiences helped you be more prepared for
oh
that
yeah,
experience when you got it. I wanna backtrack real quick because there was a lot of great things in your story that I wanna like. Well, there's a couple things that I want to highlight. Your transition from Ghana to coming here. How just that's an incredible story in itself, and it's not easy to come from one country to another country and be successful, go through the education and move up in your career and education like you did, and you were able to do that. um Recently Ghana has been in the news. I don't know if you've seen
yeah,
Stevie Wonder
yep.
decided that he's going back to Ghana because of all the
He's
hate that
always
he
yeah.
sees, and Stevie Wonder's a blind man, and all that he talks about all the hate he sees. What is your? I would love to get your opinion on that. Like, what do you,
In
how do you
in
feel?
terms of what? In terms of Stevie Wonder going back home?
Stevie Wonder going back home, and he described as um he can no longer live in America where there's so much hate towards black people. And you've been, I'm not sure how much of your childhood you remember from Ghana to here, but what do you think about Stevie Wonder's comments and him moving back to Ghana? Or not back because he never lived there, but him moving him and his family to Ghana.
Okay, so I think last time I tried to touch on this a bit. America is the the history of this nation,
Mm-hmm.
you know, makes it very, very um, complicated and complex,
Mm-hmm.
right? Ghana, if you go to Ghana, we're all black.
Mm-hmm.
So we don't have that racism issue as much as here,
Mm-hmm.
we do. The history of this nation, um, it's put this country in a place where there's a group that's always been marginalized. And I said, what this nation we've done is that the norm for the longest time has always been rich white male.
Mm-hmm.
That's what it's always been.
Mm-hmm.
That's what the norm has been. Even though this country is built by amalgam of different race, different people, still the norm still seems to be the Western European ideal.
Mm-hmm.
And until that change, people are always going to feel marginalized.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not easy to change it. It takes progress to do that.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. But I don't think people realize that that's what people are fighting for. Is
Mm-hmm.
that why is it that we're a country built by amalgam of different race, different things, which we all brought our culture from different places, but why is it that our norms and our standard is built on particular um, norms or a particular group, which in a way is the European, influence and in the Western thinking. Why is
Mhm.
it like that?
Mhm.
And that to me is what is happening. And so the people who are feels like they're not being heard or they're not being looked at, they always feel marginalized, and they're always gonna go to places that they feel, hey, yeah, you know what?
Mhm.
I feel like I'm free.
Yeah.
Until we get that thing straightened, and I really don't think our politicians really understands that. They think, whoa, the economic opportunity. Fair enough. You have to look at to establish a good standard and norms
Mhm.
and standard for a country. You have to look at the essence of who the country, what the country is made out of, and
Yeah.
who they are,
Mhm.
and drive a common and drive a norms and standard that kind of benefit everybody. But
Mhm.
constantly, the norm is still rich white male, and so when you have that, women is going to say, where is mine? Blacks is going to say, where is mine? Indians going to say, where is
Mhm.
mine? Native Indians going to say, where is mine? And everybody's going to feel marginalized because everybody feels like all these groups feels like they need to change themselves just
Mhm.
to gain in a
Yeah.
system that they helped built. And
Mhm.
that, to me, I don't care who you are, you feel like you're being marginalized. And I think
Yeah.
that's what's happening, in my opinion.
Yeah. I could definitely see that. Um, I'm going to be engaging in a very rich dialogue a little bit later today and tomorrow. I've been invited to speak to a lot of Africans in the diaspora who want to really understand, because it's Black History Month, and then there's some
Mhm.
Africans in the diaspora that do not really understand why blacks in America have Black History Month. They don't understand it, and they understand this concept of Black History Month.
And I can see that there's certain holidays that I've never really understood, like things like St. Valentine's Day, Father's Day, Mother's Day. I never understood those because back home, every day is Mother's Day, every day is Father's Day, every day is your lover's day.
so
Every day is your history day.
okay, so I mean, you're of African descent. You've been here. How do you understand Black History Month? Like, what does it mean to you when
I
you?
I always find I found it weird, but I understand.
Okay.
Right? I understand because again, the history of this nation,
Uh-huh.
because the way we are. If you do not dedicate, if you do not dedicate time, specific, not to say that every day isn't Black history or minority or any history, but you have the way this country is built. If you do not enforce and bring it forefront, it's gonna die out.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? So I get it. So to me, dedicating a month, it's not necessarily saying that, oh, this is the only month that we can talk about Black history. It's just saying we're going to put special attention
Mm-hmm.
and make sure that the contribution of minority, marginalized people, you
Mm-hmm.
know, are really drilled into people so people get it. And,
Mm-hmm.
and that should be done for all the different groups. Native Indians, I
Mm-hmm.
mean, Native Americans to me are the true. It's the sadness of this whole country. Today, you don't even see a lot of them around. You
Mm-hmm.
know, So I get it. I think it's important that we dedicate time to drill into people, make people be aware the contribution that some of these groups made. But that's not to say that, oh, since we talked about Black folks and whatever, February, January, we're not going to mention them. No, that doesn't, I don't look at it that way. I look at it as February is a special month that we need to accent even more. We need to stress on more the contribution of certain groups and things like that.
I,
But
I agree with
initially, it
that.
was a weird thing. It was a weird thing to me because coming from all Black country,
Uh-huh.
well, it will be almost equivalent to say right now if all of a sudden Ghana gained white citizens, to be like, well, let's have white history month. You know, you know what I mean? It would be so.
But I
I
don't think
get
I wouldn't
it.
consider that the same because
No,
the
no, no,
white
it's
people
not.
weren't marginalized and their history was
I,
not trying to be erased.
I,
But
I am not. You know, but you see what I'm saying? Like I said, it was weird, but it is important because again, if you look at the history of this nation, up up until civil rights began, people were marginalized. People did not know what black folks did or what women did. Some of the incredible. I mean, whoever knew that in NASA there was actually women of color. Some women of color actually were critical
Mhm.
in the mathematical. Nobody knew.
Yeah.
Nobody knew these
And
things.
look, there's a lot of that history that still people don't know that
Exactly.
we continue to dig up.
Right.
Every other year or every year we dig up something new about our
Right.
history that was buried, uh, died off or hidden from us.
And so to me, the people, I've never heard anybody say, well, why do we have Black History Month? But the people who uh, don't like this is the reason why they should look at that, how important it is to have months like this dedicated. Because months like this, or time like this dedicated to a specific group, helps us even dig more to help people understand that, hey, wait a minute, this country was built by a whole bunch of people and
Hmm.
not just one group.
Yeah,
So I think that's what makes that those month important. It helps us dig even more things.
yeah, I agree. I agree. So thanks for going on that little tangent with me. So we talked a little bit about your history, how you came here to America, the education you got, a little bit about the history of Ghana, Black history, why it's important. We went off a little tangent, talked a little bit about Stevie Wonder and that transition. Um, so I think where I want to go next is now that we've people got to know who you are and your transition. Um, let's talk about what you've been doing. And not only are you an engineer, you've also an entrepreneur. Um, talk about the entrepreneurship piece that you've managed to successfully start for yourself. How did you come up with the concept? Tell us what it is. How did you come up with the concept, and where it's at today?
So I've always like I said, connecting with people has always been the basis of everything for me. And what best way to connect with people than feeding them
Uh-huh.
and talking to them? I've always loved food and I love conversing around food. And so when I came here, I started to experiment with, the American food and trying to get myself to like them. And the results of it was creating Word of Mouth Kitchen, which is a mobile um, food vending that we
Hmm.
go from farmers market to farmers market. And our menu is really simple. It's a five item menu. I have 10 of them, but I always present five at a time, and it's all salads. And these salads actually, I call them salads with attitude.
Yeah, let me tell you. I know people on the line, especially my Africans. What is this salad thing? I need meat. I need meat. Oh, um, these are not your traditional salads.
No,
I
they're
saw it
not.
too, and I was like, this is not a salad, my friend.
No, no. It's a it's a it's a very different type of salads. You know what I mean? You get it's healthy, but the way it's designed, you get all your food groups and even more. And like I said, the idea is I want it to be equal opportunity, call offender. If you want to go and binge on the other end of meat and stuff, sure you can. If you want to go on the healthy side, you can.
Uh-huh.
But overall, the meal is actually very, very healthy.
Yeah,
And so I want a restaurant, but the way I wanted to approach it was to test if there's even a market for this idea.
yeah.
And I thought the cheapest way to do was to try it at the farmers market. So that's what I
Mm,
ended up doing. I
mm,
ended up going to La Jolla Farmers Market in Sanitas to test it out. And right now I'm at a point where I'm basically breaking even.
uh-huh.
Um, and then COVID happened. I did the calculation and just like, okay, COVID is just gonna not things not gonna work. So what I did was I since March I stopped operating and tried to do like delivery stuff just so to
Mm,
tell people we're still here.
yeah.
And then in April I'm gonna jumpstart it back up again.
I love that. I love and I
Yeah.
love the steps that you kind of took to get into business. You was like, what's the minimal viable product I can get? And you created just six things. You went
Right.
for a low cost entry point, which was farmers
Yep.
market. Tested the concept, which is for anybody that's trying to get into business. I suggest you, especially if you love food and that's your
Yep.
thing. That's definitely the best entry point, low cost efficient, so you can test the market to get into business. Now,
I,
what's some other advice would you give to somebody who's seeing your story? Maybe they might be an engineer or they do something else, but they love food too, and they want to they're inspired by your journey and story, and they want to get into a career in your industry.
so my advice to people always is that jump, you will fly. That always resonate with me because I think
Jump
humans,
and you will fly. Okay, tell me
yes,
more.
so one of the hardest thing to me in anything is taking that first step.
Uh-huh,
There's so much fear of failure, fear, oh, what if I fall flat on my face? Oh, fear of this. And so my first advice to people is that jump, you will fly.
uh-huh,
Okay. And even if you fall flat on your face, you're flying in a
uh-huh,
different way. It's just how you look at it and how you learn from that fall. You
uh,
know, I think is really very, very important. There is humanity is such a we're very interesting people that people we're very supportive.
uh-huh.
Humans are incredible people.
Yeah.
There are people out there who will support you and keep you floating. And so the first advice is don't be afraid. You have that idea, engage it, initiate it, head first.
Mm-hmm.
You will fly. You
Yeah.
may be dangling a little bit in the beginning, but eventually like a bird, baby bird, they vingle around and eventually they're flying and doing all these crazy things in the air.
Yeah. Now,
So that's
like,
first advice.
say if I'm an engineer, because here's you're unique out of most engineers. Most engineers I know don't have this artistic side of them. They're usually numbers, numbers, numbers. If the numbers don't add up, I don't do. I only do when the numbers look right. But
Right.
you somehow as an engineer, you're both. And I know we had this conversation before where you're not all left brain or right brain. You're that Renaissance man, to go back to that term we were using, where you've been able to tap into some of your engineering at this point and still keep your artistic side, and do the food, the arts, and engineering, and you have capacity to all places. For, let's say, if we have somebody who's an engineer that's listening to this that always wanted to tap more into their artistic side, but they have not exercised that muscle as much as you have. um what from a tactical numeric standpoint will help me to jump and fly?
Okay. So, the there's the reality of things in the sense this these numbers you're talking about. You have to make sure that you're not getting yourself into a debt in trying to fulfill your dreams because at the end of the day, um, the reason any one of us are chasing our dreams is to to live.
Yeah.
You know, so you always want to look at okay, what you got, what you need, and how to make sure that okay, if you're going to start this thing, you're not going to be over your head about it. That is a reality check that you always have to do. Um, in terms of being able to tap into different aspects of your life, one of the things that to me allows me to do this is that I have every days of the week, I have a clear line.
Mm-hmm.
This is engineering time. This is art time. This is music time. This is writing time and stuff. You need to
Mm,
have that discipline.
mm.
That discipline is very, very important. You know,
Yes, it is.
um, if discipline is really important, you need to be able to say, okay, Mondays is this, Tuesdays is that, and even if you're doing one thing, discipline is also important. Is that even if you're running a food vendor, you say, okay, Monday I get to do my bills, and Tuesday I got to do the dishes, and three, so discipline is really, really important as much as also jumping to fly. The jumping to fly is just the initial psychological thing.
Yeah.
But to get the numbers and to make sure that you have,
Traction and
viable
movement.
track, you discipline,
Mm-hmm.
and it doesn't matter. Go with. your instinct, but also be ready to change it if it isn't working.
Pivot.
Don't just it, exactly be
That's
able to pivot, change things, move things around. It does not make you a weak person. Just
yeah.
because you're trying multiple things and changing things around doesn't make you a weak person.
Mhm.
You have to be able to do that to be a good business person because things are changing.
Yeah.
Things are constantly changing. So you have to always also look at how to pivot around those things and make those changes. Two, three, don't compromise your beliefs and your mantras. You know what I
Mm.
mean? Don't compromise that. There's a lot of people who are willing to throw their mantra and their beliefs out the window for the Joe Greens.
Mm.
Stick with what you got, believe in what you got, and I guarantee you that it's about persistence. You
Awesome.
keep doing it enough, and the universe eventually is going to throw you a bone.
Yeah. I
This
agree.
guy's been around, and he knows what he's doing.
I love that. I love that. Great advice. So, what do you think the industry has in store for those who are trying to get into the food space, or what is the industry? I'm gonna have you speak to two industries. What does the future have in store for the engineering industry, and what does the
Mm.
industry have in store, uh or how do you see the future of, specifically when you see creatives like yourself and black people, for entrepreneurship, food startups, and so forth? Well, give me your vision for both of these industries.
I I think both industries is it's looking good. Here's why. I think given the state of what transpired in the last 4 years, as interesting as Trump was,
Interesting. That's the operative word.
yeah, you know, I think and as divided as we were, I think there's a message getting across to people. People understanding that there are a group of people um, that are being marginalized
Hmm.
in a lot of industry that we need to replenish. And
Hmm.
so what I see in engineering for especially minority, I think there's a huge amount of room in that. If you have the interest and you have the passion to be part of it, you will be part of that. I
Mm.
do believe that the game is changing a bit, to the point where in engineering there's a lot of people who are now being looking, the blinds are a little off and you're looking at different things.
Yeah.
And the same thing when they go to the other side in terms of entrepreneurship, there's money out there.
Mhm.
If you go find it, you will find it. There's money out there that people are willing to give it to anybody who's willing to start a business and move forward. There's money out there for you. You just have to find it. It's not going to be difficult, but I do believe that there's a great opportunity, and an opportunity that is diversified in all these areas and increase minority ownership in business. Because at
Mhm.
the end of the day, I think that that's what when you can provide for yourself, then you'll be able to also employ somebody, and it just keeps going.
Yeah.
So I do see some opportunities there, but that's not to say that we should relax and oh yeah, I see opportunities. So let me sit back and see if it comes to me. You need to go. You need to chase those opportunities.
Yeah, yeah. Um, and that's with any, when you're really truly talking about opportunity, that's when practice and skill set and
Yes.
everything you have dealt it, everything that you have done to prepare, where preparation um meets that opportunity, or a chance, that's real opportunity right
Right.
there.
Right. You
um
you create your own. You create your own opportunity, and don't expect somebody to come and hand you a check because you this. You go for it and you get it.
yeah, absolutely,
Um, I
definitely.
think that's very very important, and always part of it is don't lose yourself in any of this stuff. You know what I
Hmm.
mean? Don't lose yourself to gain any of these things because at the end of the day. you're the only thing you got.
Yeah, I agree.
You know,
I
so
I love all your words of wisdom. Now, you lived a very rich and full life, a very I feel like your story, we haven't gotten to all the deep parts of your story and journey, but you probably have enough for a book or a film. But through your journey of life, what are some good lessons life has taught you?
um,
And you don't have to go through
the
all of them. Just give me one good one that a
well,
good life lesson that life has taught you. One good
I
lesson.
guess I always come back to you know the belief part of it.
Okay.
You know what I mean? And that um, I'll come back to that jump you or fly in the sense that nobody in the world knows what you're doing.
Uh-huh.
You know what I mean? Everybody's trying their best. If somebody comes to say, I know what I'm doing, no, nobody does. Yeah, I'm here telling you all these things, but in all honesty, I don't know what's going to happen. We are all doing our best.
Yeah.
And so to me, one of the things I've learned is that nobody has the answer.
Uh-huh.
So my answer and my belief in what I believe I'm doing is just as good as the next person next to me. The important thing is that the lesson I've learned is that believe, jump you will fly, but be willing to also learn around you and change
Hmm.
with it and change the things that that isn't working for you. Those are the big thing that I've learned. The other thing too, and it's tied back to this. The other thing too is important
Hmm.
is you are what you believe.
Mm.
You know what it is, whatever it is you put out there, the way you look at things, your perception
Hmm.
is a huge, huge in
Hmm.
everything. If you're gonna go in business and say I'm gonna fail, well, then you're gonna fail.
Mm.
But if you take on something and say I'm gonna do this
Hmm.
and I can do it, sure, you would do it.
Yeah.
I think these two things and they kind of connected. Is really important. Believing in who you are,
Mm.
regardless. Believing that is number one thing because nobody out there got it right.
Yeah.
Look, Joe Biden doesn't have it right. If he,
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
we put so much faith in other people's thoughts and
Yeah.
opinions. I love that. Believe. And that for me, that like when you say that belief system is so important, because
Oh
you
yeah.
end up manifesting whatever it is that you
Yes.
believe. So if you if you believe you are successful, then you are right. If you believe you're unsuccessful, then you're right, and you will
It's
manifest whatever you
yeah.
believe.
It's been proven for centuries. Even way before any of us. Even the biblical days. It's been proven that we are what we say we are. This
Hmm.
mouth that we have here is a very powerful thing. This is why when a child tells you he hates you, it hurts because it's true.
Mm.
And if a child tells you they love you, yeah. So believe, and conditioning your mind
Mm.
to always focus on a positive. Some people look at the glass half empty.
Hmm.
Some people look at it half full.
Yeah.
I have a different alternative in that. I always say I look at half empty, but I can feel it.
I love that. I love that.
You know what I mean?
I love
So
it.
you know what I mean. That belief you have to believe. It's really important that you believe in who you are and what you are, and
Hmm.
not change yourself just because somebody is next to you is changing themselves to be
Hmm.
something. That's very. I think that's really really important.
Yeah, that is really important. So I love that.
Mhm.
Believe, just
Yes,
believe. Um,
believe.
so me and you, I feel like we could talk all day, but
Oh yeah,
unfortunately, I like to leave these at least a good 45-50 minute drive session so that people can
sure.
get the knowledge that they need. So let's do this. What projects are you currently working on, and where can people find you?
Okay. So like I said, I'm gearing up to jumpstart Word of Mouth Kitchen again. In April. So in April, you'll find us at Encinitas Market,
Hmm.
the Lucadia Farmers Market on Sundays. and also I'm gonna this time I think I'm gonna run two markets at a
Mhm.
time. So La Jolla also. So we have those two things. So those are the two projects I'm working on. As far as music and writing, I'm actually working on a TV series that I decided to call.
What?
Yeah, I don't talk much about it because we were actually supposed to shoot it before COVID hit.
Uh-huh.
But because of COVID, I've kind of delayed it, and I'm putting my own money to it. I don't know what's gonna come of it, but again, it goes back to Jump You Will Fly.
Look, I'm gonna
So,
manifest this. This man, we're gonna find him on a Netflix deal with the show and so forth. And I hope I can get a cameo role. That's all I
oh,
want.
no worries. So I'm working on that. I just and last November, I finished the script. We had a table Zoom read. It went well. I just need to do a few updates, and we're gonna have one. So my goal is by June, sometimes we're gonna start shooting. I'm looking for um, um, places and locations and stuff like that. But that's it's called Laszlo's Box. So that's that.
Okay.
Music. My music partner and I, Kendrick, we are putting up an album.
Uh-huh.
We just met this incredible guy. His name is Trevi. Credible mixer. He's mixing our first song.
Nice.
He's mixing our first song on the album called "Live Wild and Free."
Yeah,
We have 7 songs on this one. We call it unpolished because we just want to get it out there and get things rolling.
I love
So
it.
we're working on that, and that's what's going on basically. So these are the three, and of course there's engineering. I'm working on engineering. Is I work for the corporate engineering, so those things I can talk about it, but
Yeah.
that's always going. But these are the three things that I've been working on that eventually is going to come to fruition. I'm hoping by
Ooh,
the
I
summer.
love it. I love all of it.
So,
King Kofi, a true Renaissance man, a man of engineering, the arts, the food, the culture, the music, TV, all of it. I'm down for
I
it.
yeah.
Look, for those of you listening, I'm gonna get all the links where you can find the music, where you can find the food,
Yep.
and anything else he's got going on TV. I'm gonna get those links from him and put them in the show notes for the podcast.
Yeah.
So look out for that. King Kofi, it has been a pleasure, my man.
Thank you.
I
Appreciate it, sir.
I believe that you have inspired a whole new nation of people, and I can't wait to see what comes of the TV and everything else. I definitely gonna have to have you come back on once we drop all those projects so we can talk about
Yeah. Oh,
those.
yeah. Oh, that'd be awesome. That'd be great. And in the meantime, too, Vince, anything I can do in terms of helping the youth, please let me know. I'll
Absolutely.
drop whatever I'm doing to be in that. I think it's always good to
Oh,
help
I
help
got you
out.
on speed dial right now. So
Let me know. I
we'll
will drop whatever it is I'm
we'll
doing to come
when
there.
we get this next youth conference coming up, you coming.
Yeah. It'll be an honor. It would be great to be part of it, learn from the kids and learn from everybody who's out there. So I'm down
Absolutely.
for that.
Ladies and gentlemen, this has been an episode of Raspreneurs. Kufi has joined us. So much knowledge, wisdom, and abundance. Thank you, Kufi, once again. And
Thank
that's a wrap. Just
and
believe.
thank you so much. I'm grateful.
All righty.